I'm so honored to be here talking to you, and thank you for pouring me water, gentlemanly. So we talked about how the most sort of obvious connection between us, maybe for other people, would be that we both were born in Israel. So I'm interested in how you think your origins have influenced you as a historian, as a thinker.
I think we're both born in the myth factory of the world, like a place that specializes in producing extremely powerful stories, for good and for bad. And when you live in such a place, you just cannot ignore the enormous power of the human imagination, the enormous power of stories to move the world. So I guess that, maybe I would have written the same books even if I had been born in Australia or China, maybe not. But certainly, I think that living in a place where, at least recently, people have been killing each other by the millions over fictional stories makes you see the world in a very particular way.
No, absolutely. And that aspect of fiction has so much to do with what you talk about, and of course, what I do in filmmaking, telling stories. And I'm interested in what you think the role of fiction is in history and historical, in the way you put things together too.
Well, yeah, now certainly Hollywood is competing with the Holy Land for the title of the main story factory of the world, and it's almost as powerful. And yeah, I mean, it's really my perception is that in the end, the economists and the engineers and the soldiers, they are very often just working to realize something that came up in the mind of some poet. And this is also why I think there is a huge responsibility on the shoulders of poets and screenwriters and actors and artists that, you think that, we just entertain people. But this is not the case. It goes much, much more deeply. It provides the kind of scaffolding for people to make sense of their individual lives and of their collective lives. And good stories create a very good world, and problematic stories create a very problematic world. And the human ability to create fictions, on the one hand, is responsible for all our amazing achievements as a species, but also to so much harm that we have done to ourselves and that we have done to other animals. That, as far as we know, I would say one of the main differences, as far as we know, between us and the other animals, that they can't create these kinds of fictions. But their lives and death is often determined by the stories that this particular ape species is able to tell and believe.
Can you talk more about how you think that storytelling has made us survive, or how that has helped humans to thrive? How has it been a survival tool, storytelling?
It simply enables cooperation. I mean, the key issue is how do you get complete strangers to trust one another enough in order to cooperate. And to cooperate can mean to build a prison, or to build an army, or to build a hospital, or to build a school. In all cases, you're dealing with lots of strangers cooperating towards a common goal. And the trust is, again, in the end, trust is always based on believing in the same story. So, thousands of years ago, two strangers meet in the jungle and they want to trade instead of fight. so they don't know each other. So how do you trust somebody you don't know? You realize that you're actually family. You have some mythical ancestor that, hey, your ancestor is also my ancestor. So we are both descendants of Abraham. We have the same ancestor. Oh, so we're actually brother and sister. And once you get over that hurdle, we are no longer strangers. I mean, in reality, we are strangers. We don't know anything about each other. But in our imagination, we are brothers and sisters. We belong to the same family. And then we can trust. And if this sounds very, very primitive, then you just need to take out the currency notes of most countries today in the world, and you will see the same thing, the same ancestors. Like if you're in the United States, so you go to a supermarket and you meet a stranger, you don't know this person, and you want to buy bread or bananas or whatever, and you take out this piece of paper, hey, you see this ancestor, George Washington, we are the same. And because we both believe in the same story, we can trust each other, and it works. And it works when the story comes from the Holy Land about Jesus and God and whatever. And it can work when the story comes from Hollywood. And it's not a coincidence that now that I travel a lot around the world, and when you meet somebody, very often we try to look for a TV series that we both watched.
Right.
Hey, I also watched it. So suddenly we kind of like, we have some common story together, and it breaks the ice.